We're here today in Manchester at Fox ABC, talking to the former WBA lightweight champion, Anthony $1 Million Crolla. A big shout out to my sponsor, Kayestu, boxing heritage with modern design. Make sure you check them out via the link in the bio. So let's get straight into today's episode. Right, Ant, thanks for joining me, mate. One of the main reasons that I wanted to make this series is to allow the boxing fan to understand the questions they really want to know. So firstly, do you shower before a fight?
Mate.
So one of the first things I wanted to ask you is, what is the difference as you go up the levels, as you go from English level to your world level to your pound for pound level opposition?
I think obviously it depends on the boxer and it varies on each boxer. For instance, Ismael Barroso, I believe, was a world-class puncher, a huge puncher, but he didn't have the world-class feet of a Lomachenko, which, well, I don't think anyone has the feet of a Lomachenko, but what they'll do, I think at world-class, they will carry some world-class, whereas fights at an English title level, you might get a fighter who does something well, or they'll do everything reasonable, but nothing will be seen as world-class. I mean, listen, for Barroso, I don't want to be disrespectful because it's more than that, but that world-class power got him out of jail a few times, or it put the fear into opponents where it would allow him to beat some top-level fighters. But for me, the big difference in fighting these world-class fighters a lot of the time was defence. And I always remember, I think it was Floyd Mayweather said it. I know he says some crazy stuff, but I think 9 times out of 10, the person or the team with the best defence will win. And I think as you go up the levels, that defence becomes so important, both your defence and prizing open that fighter's defence.
Yeah. And what are the subtle things, because defence is subtle, it's a game of inches.
Yeah.
What are those subtle things that you found the best in the world done?
Yeah. Well, I think, obviously, with your likes of Lomachenko, Linares, who I think are 2 future Hall of Famers for sure, it was their defence, but I think a lot of people presume with the defence, they're just thinking, oh, hands, you know. No, your feet, your lateral movement. I mean, Linares had fantastic rhythm, but how he'd move, and, you know, trying to trap him down, he'd be moving, and then he'd explode with a fast combination. Yeah. And then before you could reply, before I'd think, right, I'll catch, and I'll counter, he'd be gone be gone again.
Was that with the angles, the pivots and
angles,
stuff?
Pivots, like you say.
If you're trying to get a shot off here,
so with Jorge, he'd be there, so you're me, you're pushing forward. Yeah. And then Jorge'd be there, then all of a sudden it'd ping. So you're thinking, right, I'm going to go. And then all of a sudden, you just whip him in fast. Bam, 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 bam. And go again. Then you're looking to reply. Jorge's gone. Yeah. He's gone, yeah?
Just a subtle step out of range.
Just a little half steps out of range. You see people, and I think, Tim, you've been lucky enough to be at the World Championships recently. Yeah. You watch some of those fighters' footwork. They make you miss just by a matter of inches. Do you know what I mean? They're not making you miss by a lot, but they're making you miss. Making you just fall short. Yeah. I think I always remember, I trained alongside, for me, one of the greatest amateurs we've ever had on these shows, in Frankie Gavin, and he just had this art of just making you miss. He was a southpaw, and he'd make you think you're in range, and you'd throw, and he'd just make you fall short, and ping, he'd just make you fall short. And I think, again, people don't realise that. That's his defence where just his feet, his lateral movement, making someone fall short. That's defending. For me, I defended a lot with my hands, so I'd be coming forward, you'd be throwing, I'd be tucking up, and I'd use my arm defence an awful lot. That's me, but I think a lot of people just presume defending is shelling up. It's not, it's the full package. It's your feet, it's your lateral movement, your dipping, your side to side. I'd bring that in a little bit as well, but I think your defence is the full package where your feet are so important in defending.
And it's the psychological effects of that. So if you're throwing your jabs and you're just falling slightly short,
it's not nice. It's not right. Listen, if you come here, I'm probably not speaking the best about myself, but if you're hitting something, it feels a little bit better.
Than
hitting nothing. So if you made some contact, or even if you just shell up, sometimes you might get it with some of the journeymen. So if you're punching me, you're there. Sometimes you'll punch through that guard. Yeah. You'll punch through that guard. I mean, listen, everyone's got a winky right type defence where you're hitting me there, and then everything's just hitting the gloves and clearly saying, but there will be things that get through. But if you're falling short and missing, it's not a nice feeling. It's not a nice feeling whatsoever.
And it prevents you from doing your work. You have to think about different ways to actually close that gap.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, you face probably the best I've ever seen at making you miss with your feet in Loma.
Yeah.
Linares is absolutely phenomenal. But Loma's the best I've seen.
Yeah.
And as you spoke about the World Championships, what I've always noticed with those elite fighters, and it seems to be southpaws, they seem to have the trickier feet.
Yeah, they do.
They're anticipating their movement, so they'll get their foot in position. So let's say I saw a very good Uzbek called Umataliev.
Yeah, brilliant fighter.
And he would get his foot in position, slip, read the shoulder twitch, so that shot would come.
And he'll come underneath,
But he will know that this is coming after. And then as soon as he sees, it's instant. As soon as that right hand goes,
it's coming there, it'd be underneath and it'd be round.
Yeah, they set their escapes up before they even let their shots
so
go.
clever. And I think what you'll say, I always remember one of the coaches, Johnny, was here, and he'd had to say he drowned him with the front foot. And I love it where Alexander Usyk, that's what he does. Lomachenko, that's what they do. Yeah. I remember fighting, I didn't probably go on long enough like that where I wasn't exhausted, but I always remember Tony Bellew fighting Alexander Usyk. And he was in the shape of his life, he was fit as anything, and I think, he said, I remember him saying, after 3-4 rounds, he said, I was absolutely goosed. Yeah. And it weren't because he'd not prepared, but you've got someone there, and he's dipping in, he's dipping his tees in, and he's making you think you're out of range, and you're thinking, should I react?
Yeah, you're going like
this.
Did
you react? And I done that with Loma, you're there, and the next thing, my hands are all over, and he just got that range of make it fainting, and you're reacting to feints.
I'll throw the right hand, and then it just makes it miss.
He'll just make him miss, and then if he's on the outside, sometimes you'll see him, they'll either whip it up here, they'll bring it round. Whatever it is, and that's a horrible shot, what you just said. You see it from both stances. Once that backhand misses, that is a horrible shot. It's a very good shot, but it's not a nice one to take.
No, you don't see it, you're not prepared for it.
You mentioned something then, Dan, and here's sort of orthodox southpaw. I don't know what's your opinion on this, we'd say it. When they insist on it, with southpaw, getting your foot on the outside. You see these Cubans, so you're saying, the Cuban, if their foot's there, they don't overthink that. I think too much can be overthought of that, and people will square up and then walk onto the backhand lot. So I don't think you've got to overthink that. Listen, all right, you could say when they're which way, you've got him on the end of everything, but I don't think you can overthink it. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Sometimes, if your foot's there, the shot's just got to go.
Yeah, you just got to spring it into range.
I think too much emphasis with an orthodox southpaw is put on getting that foot on the outside. You can, great, but you can't always do that.
I do agree, and people say the left hook to the body to a southpaw is a difficult shot to get off. I never found that. I used to like fighting southpaws, and I would never personally think about this. I mean, you would cut someone off this way. But what you can also do is loop it round. You can bring it round, that wider angle.
I think we've got a lad here, Gavin Croft. He's very good with southpaws because he grew up alongside his twin brother, Yohan, who's a southpaw. And he's the same. But he'll find that left hook an awful lot. But I think what happens is, if you turn southpaw now, people just think, we'll find the left hook, and they're used to throwing it going underneath the back elbow. They'll end up going around the back. They'll end up going around the back a little bit. So you've just got to shorten it that little bit, I think, against the southpaw. So I don't believe that when people say, it doesn't work, it does work because the shot's there, that you're a little bit nearer, so it's a little bit closer to you. You've just got to shorten the shot.
One of the things I found as well with southpaws, if you go into the southpaw stance, it's just a little setup. So the thing is, you do have to get your foot in the right position, because if you try and throw it from here, you're going to reach.
Oh, of course,
You've got to disguise it. So a little boom.
There it is,
Drive it in that short shot,
like the shot, sometimes they'll say a throwaway shot. Like, Johnny, sometimes you might be touching with the shot, you're thinking, that's my shot, the left hook to the body, but I'm going to use the right hand. So if you go with the right hand, this, like anything, the elbow's going to come up that little bit, isn't it? You're going to find the gap, and then you're going to sink the left in.
It's just a quick one in. Yeah. You mentioned Barroso there, and I think that's such an underrated win because he's gone on to do good things.
He's very heavy-handed, and I think with Barroso, I knew like he would have that mentality of, I'm going to punch through him. I'm going to punch through him, and I knew at the weigh-in how confident and how sort of, there's good people, but they was very, very confident, which nothing wrong with that, but they thought, as soon as I hit him, so I knew I had to be, I thought that fight, I knew my defence had to be watertight. And it was crazy because although there's only one or two that got through, and listen, I could feel him, and I thought, I don't want to be taking them clean or I'll end up on my back. And he obviously, and the power was draining as he was tiring because he was trying to punch through the guy, but because he had the strong forearms, because he had an east southpaw and he's letting these bombs go, and it's just mattering, and he didn't pace himself. I could feel the shot sweetening, but I knew I had to be watertight with him. I knew I had to be watertight with him.
You mentioned his feet as well, and I think your feet were superior in the sense that you were walking him back, wearing him out. But every time he would throw and he would wind these shots up, you would just step out of range.
Yeah,
and then keep the pressure
fall
back.
short. Yeah, so I might take a few here, some of the gloves, it'd come again, and then it'd be out. And again, that was tiring him more than probably getting the arms.
The swings and the misses.
Totally.
And I think you done this shot so effectively against so many other fighters. When you were pushing them back, I see Linares too. Linares is orthodox, but we stay in southpaw. Just your leaping jab.
Yeah, it was my dip jab. I'd call it. So if you, well, it doesn't matter if you're orthodox or southpaw, but it was just simply, it was just drop and just shoot up with the jab. That's all it was. So I think straight away, 9 times out of 10, you know, if a fighter drops, the eyes follow, don't they? So if you drop, the eyes drop, and then you shoot up with that, bang, it's there, and it jolt the head back. And I'm looking really, quite a few fighters recognised it, and it made me so I was buzzing with that. Some top fighters, and Carl would always say to me, Carl Frampton, and that's something that I'd always sort of try and bring in, because I think I'd be pressing a lot of the times. I'd be pressing, you'd be throwing, and then we'd drop, and then and then I'd just shoot up with it. It's sort of drop, bang, and it just jolts the head back. It's what Joe Gallo used to call it's a back of the room shot, because someone's head would fly back.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even a hard shot. The power was coming from down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's enough behind it, but it was just down, dip, and just shoot the head,
You catch the judge's eyes with those shots, and momentum too, as well. You push your opponent back with it.
They go onto the reels, and it's a fight, and then I think, and sometimes some fighters will retaliate, them thinking, right, I stand there then, you tuck, then you go again, it's the same shot, and it's like, wow, you've got me again.
I think the commitment to the jab, especially with amateurs, is one of the keys. I think most amateurs fall short with their straights. And commitment is key, and you've got to be careful that your chin's covered, and you know you're not doing this.
Totally, not throwing your chin with the shot.
Yeah. And someone who used to do that so effectively was Marvin Hagler.
Yeah,
and there was times in his career where he would sort of leaping
he'd
with
lunge in with them, but you know what he would do though, Dan? Like you say, he'd stay low. I was going to get onto that. He'd stay tucked in, so from the thing, and he'd jump in with it, but he'd be nice and low. He'd be tucked in. He wouldn't throw his chin with the shot. He'd be down and he'd be up. Yeah. And that's what I'd try and do myself, not in any way compare myself to Marvin, but I'd try and dip and I'd shoot up. But if that was tucked in, I was offering very little target then for them to come back with. If it did fall, it was down, it was up. But it was nice and compact. The chin was hidden.
And the thing is, if you do that again and someone actually jabs with you, you're the one with the momentum.
The momentum, because I'm shooting up, bang. So they jab with me, bang. Their head's going to go back. You're going to win the battle of the jabs, the exchange there.
That jab is such a weapon, and I think a lot of the sort of Asian and Eastern European fighters have used it well. You know, you have Sergey Kovalev from Russia, Golovkin from Kazakhstan. The way they would push people back and just
people don't
bloody people up.
They don't talk about his jab. Like I say, I know his feet's unbelievable. I've cut something, but his jab. Is fantastic, and I think 9 times out of 10, you were saying before, some world-class fighter 11, I want to defense the jab 9 times out of 10. All world-class fighters know how to use their jab. On the front foot, the back foot, and also those feints. I feel like every video at the moment I talk about Golovkin and the jab. But with the pressure, now I'm going to stay on the pressure just for a bit before we move on to the back foot boxing. But one of the shots that you secured some pretty good finishes with were the body shots. So talk me through those body shots. We've gone through that before, but let's go through it again. How you set those shots up. It's been varied. And even from as a young kid, I remember to see Ricky Hatton at amateur shows, and I'd probably burn his head out, thankfully. You can't remember. But I'd ask him, Ricky, and I always remember him saying, and you've got to set the shot up. I mean, listen, with any body shot, you load it up. You load it with any shot, but certain to the body, they're going to see it, they're going to be able to sense, they're going to be able to catch it. But I think it's setting the shot up. And sometimes you might be in close, and sometimes you might touch, whack. I remember when I won my world title, I think that's what it was coming in. We backed up onto the ropes, and it was there. We backed up onto the ropes, and I come up and I touch, that elbow come up, dropped all off, bang, and it was just a placement. It wasn't the hardest body shot I've ever threw. It was one of the best, but it was more the placement, and I think that's what fighters do. Good body punchers, like you say, when. Golovkin against Matthew Macklin. I remember him just touching up and then coming round. It just took the wind out of Macklin's sails. It was a brutal shot, but I think that's it. But even from either side as well, I think, you know, a lot of times you'll see it was the right hook, and it skimmed across there. So what it was, I think it come on that, and he threw. I think he threw. I can't think. The right hook, and I'd come through, and as he's come through, I've come through, and it's come right across his body.
Where he's not tense.
And he's not tense. I think even sometimes, I remember another opponent, John Murray. He was very good at it. And Liam Smith, if you ever watch him, another one with a body shot. It might not be the body shot that as you're rolling over, but it's a horrible shot. So it'll be up close, you're exchanging, you're going round. Then now and again, Dan, you just shoot it down.
Yeah.
You just shoot it down. I know I only touched them, but you're probably thinking,
No,
that's not a nice one. It's just touch and it just stab. It just shoots it down, and it's a horrid shot to take because what it does, it's like, you're gasping just for a little bit of breath. It's not one of those shots where you'd roll off just off that, but then if they come with shots after it, you're under pressure while trying to catch your breath.
And it's a cumulative.
Takes the legs away, exactly that. It takes the legs away, just chipping away. They'd be there, and it was chipping. Yeah, there it is. No, but that's it. That's it. No, but it is. It's just, you know what it is, Dan? If you're just there with me there and you just shoot it down, that's it. You know, it's not even, sometimes you don't even got to bend the knee, it's just just like that.
That was a good, Mayweather used to do that shot.
His stab was so good. He'd be there and he'd touch and he'd stab. Mayweather was so good, and he'd commit with it. So if you was Mayweather there, he'd touch with the head and then he'd step in with that. That was it, he'd touch it, boom.
Really effective.
And it was, and it takes the legs out. You'd see him a lot in a lot of Floyd's fights early on. You really start with that, yeah.
You know what, the body shot, body shots are my favourite shots. And when you were saying this stuff to me, it's giving me memories of my career. One of the fights that you commentated on, mine, when I fought Isaacs, he was relentless, he was strong, and I had to move. And I could make the headshots miss on the most part. Yeah. He would just go low and just stab it in.
He'd stab it in downstairs.
Yeah, say if you
and it is, and that's it. So if you're there, you're on the back foot, you're coming forward, and that gets stabbed into the gut. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Sooner or later, you're going to think, that's going to take my legs away a little bit. That's going to take my legs away a little bit. But
he neglected that. And I said to him after, there were talks of a rematch, so I probably shouldn't have stitched myself up. But I said to him after, you shouldn't have stopped throwing that shot.
Yeah, downstairs.
What I would do is if he threw it, I would go, boom.
Yeah.
But when you're against the ropes, it's so hard to defend.
You can't. You can't go anywhere unless, like you say, it's literally unless you sort of go across. It's a very hard shot to defend against.
Very hard.
Exactly what I was just saying there. Where sometimes if you just drop it down, it's not a nice shot.
And that Golovkin-Macklin shot, I love that shot so much. Like you say, I tried to mimic that and it worked pretty well. But when you let that shot go, you don't even feel it.
No, it's up and then round, and it's like I remember watching it, and I felt winded watching it. I'm crazy. It was one of the great body shots I think in recent times. You know, when you think of one that really sticks out. But I think with body shots as well, and I was going to go back to Ricky. So if you're up against the ropes, Ricky would sometimes his feet would play a big part in it. It'd be touch. He'd come round the side, then he'd come up the middle, wouldn't he? He'd come up the middle. He'd come up the middle, or he'd touch, him this way, whack. Do you know what I mean? He'd move with the shot. He'd move with the shot before, whack, or he'd touch, whack.
And and what? So if I put you there. Getting back now, all the hits. If I put you there, what Ricky would do so well. And this is what I find a lot of people struggle with. So some fighters will do that and go. And they try and do it all at the same time. But he would
try and rush it. His feet was brilliant.
It's like 3 different movements. The step, pivot,
whack,
drive through.
That's it. And because his balance was so good with that, where his feet was in the right place, there'd be much behind the shot. He wouldn't load up with it, but there'd be a lot of power behind it because his power was so good. Like you just said, if you do that again, look, so 1, 2, 3, there, he's rotating, coming back through.
And I think, I was talking to Fraser Clark about this the other day with rhythm, and because it's a 1, 2, 3, you think it's speed that's going to land this shot. From either side, and again, Lomachenko was the master of it. He would do it at such a high speed, you wouldn't notice he's doing 3 things. It's all like one. But you've got to get your feet in position.
Totally.
It's no good just doing this.
And then throwing it. No, because then it's there, and then you naturally... If you're dipped over, then there's only one way to go, and that way is to go with the weight. When you're going to rotate, bang, it's there.
So, obviously, we spoke about you on the front foot, but one of your best performances, I think, was a back foot masterclass against John Murray, who was keeping the pressure on you. You showed that you could box not just on the front foot against the best, but on the back foot so effectively under pressure. My coach at the time, my amateur coach, said that is how you deal with pressure in a fight. That is a textbook masterclass performance. Tell me about it. Show me how you did it.
No, it's, do you know, with John, obviously, with the history, obviously, Joe knew John very, very well. But what it was with John, we've talked about it just earlier, John would be so good at just bringing it out and just stabbing. So Joe said, Crolla, in this fight, you can't have You know, the hand there, sort of double guarding like that, because John's going to chip away, go around the side. So he said I had to be a little bit more. So it was coming a little bit more side on, a little bit more side on, so I could see the shots coming a little bit. I couldn't be blinded. Allow John to be touching me and coming down, up, round, so I could see everything sort of with it. And that's how it was with there. And he always had this thing of, I knew John was going to start fast, very, very strong at the weight. I knew he was going to throw literally the kitchen sink at me.
Yeah.
But I knew. I thought mentally you had to get prepared. Like you was going to have to come through the fire a little bit early on. But I couldn't be exchanging, so it was a little bit of, although some of those rounds I was losing, I was winning the war, if that made sense, because I knew you, again, chip away, and it'd come because, listen, it'll keep coming and coming, but just then I had to pick my moments. And be smart with it. But like say, how was it? That's where I had to adapt a little bit, because I knew I couldn't. So if you was throwing Johnny, he'd go there and he took. That's it. And I wasn't a fan of. It worked for me well, that fight, but I couldn't. I wasn't a massive fan of the old Philly sheller out like that, and it sends me mental now when you see so many young kids.
Yeah.
So many young kids. My 11-year-old comes in the gym. He's been in the gym a handful of times, and he's fighting like this.
Yeah.
Just what he do. Yeah.
But
YouTube.
I think the point that you make about that is brilliant. Like, it's so good. Learn how to do it, but master the basics first. Use it when you need to use it.
And it's also, like you say, with that, I think you can then feed off it. It's there, if it's coming there, and it's you're shooting off it, you're catching.
Yeah.
And then I think as the fight went on and John was slowed down, then I could revert a little bit and catch and return, return with him.
Punches haven't got
there's
as
a
much
little
sting.
bit more. Yeah, there's a little bit more in my tank than is because of the pace he'd set. Yeah.
Yeah, and we talk about obviously some of the highlights in your career, some of the higher moments in boxing. I mean, selling out stadiums. I mean, the MEN Arena, like the atmosphere in some of your fights. You know, just it's not like a big Anthony Joshua Stadium fight where everyone's going. These are proper boxing fans.
But it was, and it'd be a bear pit sometimes, like you say. It would be. I think so many fights I won and lost on a ring walk. I really believe that. I think when people at the moment get to you, I remember Joe would always be like to us, no, that's your time, that's your Broadway moment. So you've got to enjoy it a little bit, and it's you know, be a peacock, strut your feathers, enjoy it. There's a difference. I'm never the type to start being cocky or out like that on the way to the ring, but some people, they can be too hyped up and they're banging around, and you see people burn after energy on a ring walk, fired up. So I just think that's where it's so important. What's the saying? Yeah, it's keeping a cool head in a hot kitchen.
But what is that experience like?
But it's surreal. I always say this, Dan, because I don't want to sound like a smart ass in the sense of I've never done drugs. However, I imagine no drug. I can't imagine a drug give you that kind of feeling. Do you know what I mean? It's people who know the rush of adrenaline, you know, and you're thinking you're looking out in an arena where you went to as a little kid, you're looking out, seeing thousands of people cheering your name. You're like, wow, this is really what dreams are made of. This is what all the hard work, this is what it was all worth it for. But at the same time, you enjoy it, you take it in, but you can't get carried away with it. I'm also a big believer in, you know, I'd always tick whatever box was asked of me of the coach, and I think that gives you that confidence to walk into the ring. I see like some fighters walking into the ring and you can see them thinking, I don't know how they do it, where they think, I should have done that, should have done my weight a bit better, should have done that. That's horrible. But then there's some fighters who just have this confidence where you think, how does he have that confidence? Knowing when you think he's cut corners. But yeah, it is a big thing. And I think for me, that is one of the most enjoyable. Do you know when you go, do you miss boxing? Yeah. I don't miss boxing because I'm still around it. I'm still around it with the lads every day. I'm trying to do it from another thing now in the corner, from another point of view in the corner, and get great satisfaction out of it. However, do I miss the nights? Of course. And that, not because I'm an egomaniac, but that feeling of, that's the only thing where I'm never going to get that feeling again. Yeah, I think most boxers miss that. And I think you touched on a good point, because I personally suffered with nerves my whole career badly. You know what I mean? There would be times where I wanted to run out the door and just run away from a fight. You know, punch the window or break my... Just stupid things to get yourself out. You never do it. You always commit. No, of course, but that thoughts go through your head, don't they?
It's strange though, because my toughest fight, again, when you commentated, I wasn't... It was... The butterflies are there, but I wasn't nervous. I was confident. Because I had worked harder than ever. Totally.
You ticked all the boxes in camp. And I think I always remember, again, this was John Murray. We was jogging and we were just having the chat about it. You've got to enjoy fight night, he said, because your career soon comes and goes, and the amount of people who'd want to be in your shoes that night or think they'd want to be in your shoes, it's unreal. And you think, this is what we work hard for. If you're not going to enjoy the end product, what we're doing it for?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I know not everyone loves the job, but for a job like this, I think you have got to love boxing a little bit.
It's the highs you chase.
Yeah, of course, exactly that. You know, the highs of that ring walk, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Listen, I always say it as well, experienced it as a coach, as a fighter. The lows are also through the floor, do you know what I mean? They're horrendous. But no,
but it's similar. Like, I mean, I've decided not to continue fighting because I've got all of this stuff going on. I mean, I fought for 14 years at amateur and professional level. So people ask me the same, do I miss it? And no, I don't miss the training. I don't miss it at all. Yeah. But I do miss those moments.
Of course.
But we talk about the highs.
That thing of getting picked up to go to the arena or something like that, to go to the venue.
There's nothing like it.
There's not. And it's like, while you're waiting to walk, or, you know what, I remember it. I'm not just talking like TV fights, but anyone who's in here, you'd be in the changing room and say if you was on TV, they'd go, right, someone would be coming in, there'd be a runner, a lot of time be a guy. Well, I mean, Ralph's not a runner, he's behind the skies, he's much bigger than that, but he'd come and go, right, we're going to look to go at this time, and you can feel the clock ticking away, and it's going, right, 5 minutes, be in 1 minute, then it goes, right, it's time to walk, and that feeling of like, wow.
Just as you're about to go. I always found the closer, the easier it was. When you're about 5 minutes out, it was, but, you know, obviously boxing is a sport with lows. You go to the ticket sales kind of thing. You go to the promoters, but also you've got the risk. Now, you have experienced this in your career. Yeah. The ultimate lows where, you know, a Kieran Farrell, for instance.
Horrendous that night. I would say it was the lowest point in my career. But even though I won that night against a very good lad, it was the lowest point in my career and one of the very lowest points in my life. Because it was horrendous, because I didn't know what was going to happen, and then people guess and people talk. When he's been rushed off to hospital, you hear things, and it's horrendous. And I never realised, I probably realise it now, but I remember Joe saying to me, you lost that little bit of spite, that little bit of edge for about 12, 18 months. And then it wasn't until like, then you got it back. And then when I think back now, I think I probably did. Yeah. I probably did lose a bit. And it was, I think what helped massively is, but I had to leave it a little bit of time to let it sort of cool down. Keir said the same. When I went to see him and talk, and it was like, even going to see him was a big thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like I remember I was driving, you know, and you're thinking, I don't want to do that. I wanted to just turn around and just make up some like, oh, the traffic's bad or whatever. But I'd said it was literally, now I've got in, and it was mad. I know it sounds daft. I remember saying, oh, right, Keir, come over. And you could see it was a bit like, he probably needed that bit of time to cool off. And I remember throwing the phone in the back of my car because I think, I can't grab it now, I'll make up some bullshit, do you know what I mean? I can't be weak and turn around, so yeah.
You know what, it's some of history's greatest. I've had to experience that as well. I mean, Sugar Ray Robinson killed, I think it was Jimmy Doyle he killed, I think off the top of my head, but he killed an opponent. Ezra Charles famously killed Sam Baroudi, and he was never the same after that either. Well, I mean, obviously, you know, luckily enough, everything ended up being okay in that situation. But what's going through your head in the fights after that?
I feel like but not even just in the fight, but probably in sparring, and you're thinking if there's a reaction from someone, you're thinking, oh, you start questioning it when you're thinking there's a reaction from someone. I mean, listen, Kieran's gone on to do unbelievable things. He's gone on to be part of the training team for a world heavyweight champion, like the highest of highs. But then there's other people you've not been as, you know, lucky. I don't mean lucky that, because Kieran's one of the hardest works you'll ever meet in your life, so he's not lucky in that sense. But, do you know, I always say when people make, like, for instance, it was Mike Towell the other year, wasn't it? Do you remember we did that? And I think he's had to live with that. And the lad, Sheffield, Scott West, was it Westgarth? Scott, he lost his life, and he won that night. But then collapsed, God bless him, in the changing rooms. And it's just, people never realise there's so many people who get affected through that. Obviously, the fighter who passes away, all his family, all his team, or even if he don't pass away, as life changing, they have to deal with it. They have to deal with picking up the pieces, but also the fighter itself as well. Like probably people around him have to deal with it.
And it's you know, it's not a nice subject to cover, but it's such a you know, and luckily boxing is getting safer as it was in the older days, but it is something that does happen. It happens at a consistent basis, you know, more than it should. And you know, you need to as a fan, have respect for that fight. All fighters step into the ring because of that.
And I always say this, listen, that the paying fan and stuff, they're entitled to their opinion. Like, I'm not one of these fighters either who goes, oh, you never laced your gloves up, how would you know? I've never laced my football boots up at Old Trafford, but I think for some reason I can have a comment. So fans are entitled to their opinion, but then it's just certain times when they're a bit nasty towards fighters. That might sound soft, but calling them bums, saying they spew it when they've not looked at the issue. And listen, that does happen where fighters sadly do spew it sometimes, but sometimes we'll get wrongly accused of things. Do you know what I mean? They'll get wrongly accused of things where people don't know what's going on in the background. Yeah,
it's one of the hardest sports to be critical of if you've never done it. I'm the same. I really don't mind anyone having an opinion.
Yeah, no, and I think
when you're harsh, overly harsh.
Yeah, I think you've just got to be careful when you're overly harsh. I mean, listen, because without fans, without the viewers, even if it's people online or whatever, without them, the sport doesn't become what it is. So you've got to take the highs and lows. And I'll always say it, when a fight is carrying on like a gobshite, and then he starts getting that online criticism, now you've got to take it.
Yeah, you've put yourself out there.
Yeah, if you put yourself out there, you know, showboating this and that, disrespecting opponents, then when it's not sort of gone your way, you've got to take it. You've got to take that, it's that little bit of humble pie. And listen, do some people go out the way to go a bit over the top? Yeah, they do, but you've got to take criticism as well.
No, of course. Well, listen, I think that's enough for today. I really appreciate it.
Dan, it's always good to see you, mate.
Yeah, likewise,
always.
Man. Thank you.